Well, one of the funnest things in March Madness is projecting the upsets. There's always an upset. There's never not an upset. And a lot of the times, those upsets, or at least those sexy picks, come with those 12, 13 seeds. We're going to talk about a certain 12 seed that could be one of those dark horses. At least one of us think that's the case here in this tournament. Let's talk about Drake. Drake is going to be an interesting team this year. No, we're not talking about the rapper. We're talking about the team out of the MVC. Drake looks really good in this one. They're 27-7. They were 15-5 in their conference. They only played one top 25 team and they won this year, but they are going to face a very tough team, a team that shared the co-ACC regular season title, the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Steve, you have been quoted to say Miami was overrated at the beginning of the season, but you also came back and said you were wrong later on in the year. But now you think this team could be heading for an early first round exit against a potential upset.
I do. Again, injuries are the big reason why I have some doubts about again, Miami played really well, especially once you got into conference play. Uh, I did eat the humble sandwich and admitted that okay, maybe I shouldn't keep calling them overrated, and doing my little Miami cheers about them being overrated. But Drake as a team, this is why it is good sometimes to be able to have time to watch all these conference tournaments and why it can be bad. And for me, Drake has the potential to be this year's St. Peter's. I mean, I grew up with St. Peter's. I went to their games from just when I was just a little wee lad, and last year, actually, had they actually gone to the four, I would have been the only person in the Yahoo universe that would have picked St. Peter's to the four. But I did. They lost in the eight. But I got on St. Peter's not because I was a St. Peter's fan. It's because I really liked what I saw in the Metro Atlantic Conference tournament. Watching Drake and watching, the MVC, that's a tough, balanced basketball conference every year. Drake did everything well. They played good defense. They had a nice inside presence with Darnell Brody. I thought he really had a coming out party. They have the conference player of the year in DeVries, in Tucker DeVries. He's fun to watch. And we talked about injuries with some of the other clips. Two really important players, Roman Penn and DJ Wilkins, are finally healthy. Last year, they've had some frustration, Drake, trying to get to the tournament. They did really well in the regular season, but then they faltered in the tournament. Injuries derailed them, I think, in each of the last 2 years. This year, they finally, were healthy. They put everything together. Everything clicked. I liked the way that they reacted, even when teams were coming back to try to challenge them. So for me, Drake is this year's St. Peter's. Drake could make a really deep run. Now, I have them losing to Iowa because I had to make good on my preseason prediction that Iowa would make the Final Four. So in order, and even though I'm not as committed to that pick, I think it's only fair since I was crowing about it so loud, in our season previews, I should at least follow through with that. But if it wasn't for them having to meet Iowa in my bracket, I would have had Drake to the eight. I mean, I really think they're the kind of team that, fans are going to get around because, I mean, I don't want to say they're boring, but they're very old school. You're not going to see a lot of flashiness here, but, fundamentally they're sound. They play a really interesting, defensive scheme at times. And I think they have the inside outside balance that you need to make a deep tournament run.
Well, you see Drake with obviously having their full health back. Well, that is going to be a concern on the Miami side, and I think that's why you're really pushing towards Drake being a first round victory against the Hurricanes. I have Miami going deep, but if Miami is going to have any issues whatsoever, I can see it against this Drake team because of the injury concerns, especially with Norchad Omier, who came over, big transfer. I've been on record all season long discussing how I think that this is the most important transfer in all of Power 5 this year, the one with the most biggest impact, averaging a double-double or just below a double-double. I think it's like 9.6 rebounds. He's just shy of the double-double average. I mean, he's amazing. He hurt himself in the semis of the loss against Duke, who went on to win the ACC tournament, and that could be a valid concern. And I do think that is a big concern for the Hurricanes if he can't be ready to go and Drake is firing in all cylinders, a team that honestly was very close to being on the bubble, if they didn't win the MVC. So this is a team that could potentially have been very close to an at-large bid. They're not just one of those teams that made it just because they won their conference. So Drake is going to be a interesting team. And although I don't agree that they are going to be the dark horse and win against Miami, I wouldn't be surprised if they are the ones that make that deep run, Steve.
Yeah, and I think again they're going to benefit by the region that they're in. I mean, I don't have Houston, Miami, or Indiana making it out of the first weekend. I don't. Obviously, Drake's going to beat Miami, so that's why I can say that. I have Houston losing to Iowa. I have Indiana getting bounced in the opening round. They're a young team, but I think they play Kent State, if I remember right.
Yep.
So who they played? Mm-hmm. Kent State's defense is going to just make those kids just melt. So I think they're in a region where that opening is going to get wider and wider the deeper you go into the tournament. And Drake is just one of those teams that they can shoot the three too. I mean, they don't shoot it as well as the women Bulldog do, but they do shoot the three well. So they do everything that you need a team to do to make a deep run, and I think they're going to have that avenue to do it. I don't have any bias against Miami per se. Now, if this was Penn State, yes, okay, I have a really unhealthy bias against Penn State in general. But I mean, I just don't think the Miami could not afford to have an injury, to their star player. That they're just not a team that can survive that. And Drake, I think, would match up well without him in the lineup, and I think that allows them to have that first round upset.
Interesting. Now, speaking of Penn State, they're also in this Midwest, and they could be one of those teams that have an upset as well. But Drake, a potential dark horse in the Midwest. Is the Midwest going to be the upset region? I mean, there's a lot of trendy teams in there that could speak that. Drake's just being one of them. Kent State's another. We talk about Penn State. There are plenty of teams in this region that could sneak out and be a double-digit seed that wins in the first round. So let us know in the comment description below. What do you think, especially about Drake? Do you think that team is going to be a sleeper team and possibly make it farther than the first weekend in this region? Do you think there's any other sleeper teams that we haven't talked about yet? Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. March Madness is here. We are going to have you covered for every single part of it until we have a champion crowned on both the men's and the women's side. But until then, thanks for watching. SlasherU.